Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 IxD Grad Show Live. There we go. My name is Luke Johnson, and the projects you'll see today are part of the senior studio class. But before we get started, I wanted to welcome IxD program lead Nicole Chan, who will talk about the IxD program and welcome our guests.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Nicole Chan, as Luke mentioned, and I'm the IxD program lead. So the SMC IxD program is very unique. It's the only interaction design bachelor's program at a community college in the United States. And for those watching on YouTube, the IxD program began its first cohort of students in the fall of 2016 as one of 15 bachelor's programs in the state of California. So we're still pretty new. This past fall, the SMC IxD program was made officially permanent by the state of California, and we are excited to graduate the 5th cohort on Saturday. So I'll start out by introducing our special guests. So these are industry experts who are going to be providing feedback today. So Jill, do you wanna start and introduce yourself first?
Sure. My name is Jill De Silva. I run a small design agency out of Los Angeles. I am an SMC alumni, and I went through what was called their graphic design and web design program in 2010. And I've been just so enthusiastic about this program and what Nicole and Luke have done, and everybody that comes through this program is so inspiring. So it's an honor to be here. I'm happy to support this. I'm on the board of advisors for this program as well. And anyway, really looking forward to meeting you all and hearing your projects and offering some good support for y'all.
Great, thanks. Jamila, do you want to say hi?
Sure. My name is Jamila Jackson, and I work at Moshare. I am on our culture and talent team. And then my background, I've been at Moshare over almost 18 years now. And so during that time, I was also there as the creative director. So I am super excited to be here with y'all because I get to kind of dabble back into my creative roots as well as give some feedback. Most of my culture and talent work is on professional development, hiring, and coaching.
Thank you.
That's great. Well, welcome everyone. This year's senior capstone reflects an 8-week sprint. So that's pretty crazy if you think about it, right? So usually these are semester-long projects, but we're always trying something new in the IxD program. And so seniors had 8 weeks to put together a capstone project. Students were allowed to work individually or as part of a team. And the people that we're going to see today chose to work individually. So very proud of them and their work and working alone. We also try to group student work around a theme, and the theme for this session is very near and dear to my own heart, which is around culture. So I'm excited to see this. As far as the agenda goes, students will have about 5 minutes to present, and then we will ask each guest to take the lead on feedback for around 10 minutes of feedback. And we're going to move pretty quickly because we have 3 students in this group. Nicole, over to you.
Yeah, so the feedback structure that we practice in our program, and I'd like to give a try today, which you probably are both familiar with, is the I like, I wish, I wonder method. So it's always nice to start off with feedback saying you like something, so what went well or positive, and then move on to I wish. So it's a good starting point for what could be done differently or improved. And then I wonder is really a lovely way to point to questions that might be still unanswered or some new ideas of some new ways of thinking. So we're going to start off with Ben, and I'll let him introduce himself. And then Jamila, I was hoping that you would take the lead on Ben's feedback, and then Jill, if there's time, you can follow up with any insights that you might have. Cool.
Okay, let me share my screen and I will take it from there. So during the last 2 years of the pandemic, have you found yourself stuck in a Zoom meeting that's gone on for way too long, and you began to wonder where the creative spark went that your team used to share in person? What's missing in the way that we're working remotely? That's what I wanted to study as a part of my project. The pandemic has pushed a lot of teams into remote work and sped up a trend that had already begun many years ago. I've spent the last 10 years running or being a part of a remote team. So this is a question that's been really important to me. Let's take a look first at a poll that was conducted by IBM that asked CEOs what quality was the most important in a good leader. 60% answered that creativity was by far the most important quality. And building creative organizations that can work remotely already has become a key differentiator that helps some companies succeed in a world where remote work is becoming more important both to employees and to companies generally. So I began by looking at what creativity looked like and still looks like among teams in person. And it involves a lot of accidental conversations. It involves ideas that are sparked by something someone saw on TV that influences an important project. It usually includes a lot of unplanned moments that just happen by accident. And what has remote work looked like for most people? It's been a lot of Zoom meetings, often back to back and forth emails and messages. It's taken part of what worked in the real world, which are planned meetings and work sessions, and basically just made it virtual. And for many people, it hasn't been an enjoyable experience so far. So even in-person creative work environments weren't something that just appeared one day completely figured out. Famously, Pixar's offices were designed with restrooms and other amenities that were centralized in a way that created more accidental run-ins, the kind that spark unexpected conversations. Remote work is naturally more asynchronous. People have a harder time being in a 2-hour Zoom meeting than a 2-hour in-person meeting. So I decided to start off my research by taking a look at how people spark creativity on their own, because that in many ways is more analogous to what asynchronous work looks like. A lot of creativity is about connecting ideas. Anyone that makes a living being creative usually has some kind of system. Jerry Seinfeld famously wrote down and organized every joke he'd ever written. And the more you organize ideas, the more you can connect them. And once they become connected, you then start to develop them even further. So while exploring how individuals create and organize their creative work, I came across the growing world of digital personal knowledge management. And so here people use apps like Roam Research and Obsidian to create basically personal networks of connected knowledge. And that led me to a popular leader in the personal knowledge management space named Nick Milo, who runs the blog Linking Your Thinking, and basically created a methodology that starts with encountering a creative idea and takes you through the process of noting, connecting, organizing, developing it, and then finally expressing it. And so this is what I wanted to use to build a system on top of that could help spark more creativity in remote teams. So let's take a look at how you could apply this methodology within a remote team. So let's pretend that you're a designer at a sneaker company that sells their shoes online. And while looking for new ideas, you run across Warby Parker's Home Try-On program. And that makes you think, maybe this idea could work for sneakers, and it's something that we could try. So first, you create a quick note explaining your idea, and that's located in a special area for ideas that anyone in your company can see, though obviously some might be restricted to fewer people. And you make a few notes and can even tag other people in the company that might be interested, and that would show up for them in their next review session. So your manager could have a weekly process of reviewing the notes created by her team and connecting them together or passing them along to someone better suited for it. So in this example, she sends us to the marketing director since it connects to that team's 2022 goals. The marketing director gets tagged, and so he sees it in his next upcoming review. Because the team, individuals on the team know that their ideas will be seen, people are more excited to contribute. A team leader might get 5 to 10 great new ideas each week that they can connect together and help shape. And it helps people feel connected to each other in a way that they often don't in remote environments. And it adds that magic unexpectedness to not knowing what you might see. So now when teams do have the hopefully more occasional online meeting, they have ideas to cover and everyone's excited to have helped spark some of those ideas and looks forward to the next time they meet about them. And if someone sees an idea getting a lot of comments, they might even follow up with a quick Loom video explaining it further or ask for a meeting to expand on that idea. So thanks so much for listening to my project. Remote work has been a big part of my life and something that I really see value in and want to help improve. Some of the feedback that would be really helpful is, are there any important problems that you've seen in remote work that I missed? Could you see there being a place for helping build a remote team culture, sort of like what I touched on? And am I on the right track? So thank you guys so much.
Really well done, Ben. Thank you very much. Jamila, do you want to kick us off?
Kick us off? Yeah. So first of all, yes, awesome job. This is a topic that is very, very near and dear to my heart, with everything that we've been doing at our company. And so I can definitely relate to exactly a lot of what you said. I really liked that you identified the non-obvious kind of methods of writing that a lot of people, I think, take for granted. So those accidental conversations that you were talking about, and the idea of not only looking at how that happens in an office setting, but also just in our regular everyday lives. So I really liked that. That unexpected collaboration is key. I do wish that you had addressed some of the obstacles to adoption of this methodology in your presentation. One of the things that popped into my mind first was, like, would a team leader who is kind of managing or collecting that information, who's kind of holding the team accountable to then making sure it's, followed up on in a meeting or discussed, would that add an additional workload? Like, I could imagine the first stress they would have is like, oh, wait, I have to manage another system, right? Which, whether that's a realistic concern or not is a whole different conversation. But I would have liked that to have been addressed as an obstacle, possibly. And then I wonder if, this could be even more connected to not even just fully remote teams, but also hybrid work, and the way in which you could actually use this as a bridge from hybrid to fully remote, or kind of a combination of the two, because I think that's probably going to end up being the trend in some industries where it's kind of more hybrid versus fully remote. So yeah, I mean, overall, awesome job.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Jill, do you want to build off of that?
Absolutely. Ben, thanks so much for presenting and speaking to a topic that is near and dear to my heart, because I definitely, while I love to speak and teach about UX design, and I give demos every day. In fact, today I gave one just at 8 o'clock this morning. I'm on the camera, and I think, Zoom fatigue, not seeing the reactions. I'm sure Nicole and Luke, you feel that way as instructors too. You can't see how what you're saying is landing. And I think the same is true for business meetings. So, I think one of the things is to have people on camera, but that causes fatigue, because right now I'm looking at my hair. I'm like, what does this look like? Are my glasses okay? So, there's a little bit of that. We wouldn't normally be doing that sitting in a meeting, maybe a little, but not to the extent we do. Again, I really like that you chose, something that is about collaboration and creativity and things like that. So my feedback is going to be focused on, could you turn your presentation into a case study? And, I think what I liked about your presentation is the use of imagery. I thought it was very relevant. I think one of the things I would wish to see is, even if you're still going to be speaking and presenting this to a potential employer, and just, because we can pitch these types of ideas, you don't have to have a solution or a finished product, right? So you can talk about your process, which is what we're doing here. So if you had even just a title slide on, like on your poll slide, you gave me the number, but if I looked at it and didn't hear what you said, I would have missed the context of what that number was referring to. And so a lot of times we have to think about our presentations, again, kind of meta. If I'm sharing a presentation with a colleague, are they going to get what I mean by it if I'm not there to speak it? And again, I know you knew you were going to be here presenting this to us, so that's not how you prepared yours. But this is where I'm thinking, you could take it a bit further. So you talked about what problem you were solving, kind of who you were solving it for. I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more persona development there, kind of targeting who is this, and it could still be. It doesn't even have to be a gendered person of any kind. It can just be characteristics about this person. There's lots of people who love to be on camera. There's people that might be a little shy. So maybe it's based on their personality. So I would love to have seen a persona there, and maybe even some interview quotes from those different types of personas. Again, doesn't have to be a full-blown persona list, but just like, these are the kind of their characteristics, and this is what they said about working remotely or collaborating, and what some of the biggest pain points were, perhaps. So yeah, short titles on your slides. Like I like the Jerry Seinfeld one, but I think it would have been cool, if I may suggest, to have like connecting ideas. Like it could just be 2 words up there, kind of help reinforce the story that you're telling. You moved into solutions, and I think it was a little bit vague because it could just be some type of a portal or a system. But I think the way to take this further is to think about what systems exist. Is it SharePoint or something like that teams use? So what do teams use now? So looking at the list of tools they use, the features and benefits, and if there's a gap, these are the gaps. You don't have to come up with a solution for that, but what are the gaps and what's being offered now? That would have been helpful. And even research, you did some good research on numbers. I'm sure there was a way more than what you showed here in your presentation. But a few more numbers. I myself, again, I designed my life to work from home. That's why I went to Santa Monica College in the first place, so I could work anywhere in the world. So for me, this is fine, but it's still hard. So what are the pain points for people that this is even, working remotely a benefit to? And then I think the last piece is you asked a question if you're on the right track, and I think you are. And I think that, again, I would love to see this evolve into more of a case study and showing your process, showing a little bit more of a competitive analysis or comparative analysis. You did pull in some comparative research when you looked at Warby Parker and the thought of tennis shoes, and, is that there? So I thought that was great. But, a little bit more in depth, who else did you look at that does this? So what else? Yeah, and then I think even I would love to hear from you. You don't have to answer this now, but even if you did do a case study, what are your next steps? How would you continue to flesh out the solution of a portal or other potential opportunities? Maybe it's discovering more gaps and seeing if there's a one size fits all solution, whatever that is. But would you do more user interviews? Would you do more research on what tools are already out there, that kind of thing? So anyway, that's my feedback. And happy to answer any questions based on what I just shared with you as well, if we have time.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful.
Yeah.
And we have about 2.5 minutes if there's anything you want to double click on or follow up with.
Yeah. Well, the what you mentioned, Jill, about what systems already exist was really interesting. I had that originally in my presentation. I ended up just cutting it out to give more context. But one of the things I found was there's a lot of solutions out there, and there's a lot of stuff that aren't designed for this that people use. Like a lot of people that I looked at used Slack as sort of this repository of data that they would then just search. Mm-hmm. But then there's specific solutions. There's one called Slight that I ran across, and a few that are specifically like team knowledge management software. And it seemed really interesting, but it was almost lacking in enough features that it wasn't helpful to use that as a starting point. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like do you think it would have been helpful to maybe still share those, like just to give some context, but then almost like talk more about the process of like, here's what it would look like, and then address those concerns of time and obviously effort that you brought up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think really you're just discovering the problem and what the gaps are. I don't even think you have to have a solution at this point. I think this is a great research case study. And I think that, the solution comes right from this research. And I think pointing out those gaps, even in a comparative analysis like chart, what has what features are missing based on my interview, none of these tools do that, or you have to use 5 different tools to do the one thing. So that's where the generative solution starts to unfold, but you don't have to create that. You just have to show like, hey, I've proven there's a gap in the market. I've proven that these things are falling short, and these are the things that people need. And based on that, then it's the next step into like designing the product. So I think, yeah, seeing those pieces and seeing that gap, kind of a gap analysis would be really helpful.
Awesome, thank you. If there's time, Jamila, one of the things you mentioned that stood out was this idea of like, wait, I have to manage another system. And that's definitely something that came up in like discussions I had about this idea. And I'm curious, like, what would be a way to address that? Because for the people, like, let's say the CEO of a company, well, okay, I can show how much this adds to the creativity of the whole team, but to the individual person, especially those that are really stressed, maybe burnt out.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think would be like a way to address it for them?
Well, I think part of what Jill was sharing actually could address it. So, if you are looking at the competitive research of the other applications and software, et cetera, that are out there that people are commonly using, and then being able to, now, of course, this goes on the solution end, but being able to integrate what you're talking about with those other platforms. So, this would actually save you time because this can speak to that, right? In our own company, we use Salesforce. We're a sales-driven organization. We use Salesforce, but then we've got Slack and we have, Microsoft Teams and all of these things. And my big thing is always, we can make them talk to each other. So I don't need you to enter the information in 15 places. It can, whether it's an actual integration that exists or we create a Zap, right, that moves this information there. But we need a process of this is where you put the information and then it can automatically go here. And so, yeah, I think because that's a pain point I often run into on the culture side of trying to integrate a new system or whatever. I think that's why that obstacle to kind of adoption was the first thing that popped in my head as something to be addressed. But I think with Jill's point of looking at what's out there, that can be an additional layer of, okay, this can integrate with what you're already using so that it's not multiple, things, or it can automatically send an email if it needs to, that type of thing.
That's really helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben. Really nice job. And the exciting part about what Ben's doing is he's already project managing and leading teams. So there's a very good chance that this will be integrated if it's not already. And we may see this as a case study sooner rather than later. So Ben, really nice work. We're going to move on to Rosie, and a couple things about the next couple projects you're going to see. One of the opportunities for the presentations was not to just highlight one project, but to talk about a design practice and using their capstone as one part of a larger design practice. So some of the feedback for these next couple projects might be more around the storytelling and how they're presenting a design practice as part of a larger interview or as a next step in transitioning from the academic world to the professional world. And in Rosie's case, who's doing both at the same time. So Rosie, take it away.
All right, thank you, Luke.
And Jamila, will you take the lead on this presentation? Thanks.
Okay, hi, I'm Rosie Dominguez, a user experience designer and project manager. My career started as a UX designer 10 years ago when I was testing emergency communication software that wasn't user-friendly. And this sparked my interest to create products and services centered around the people using them. Our users are ER nurses, first responders, and disaster coordinators that are working in high-stress environments. And I understood their need to find and share critical information quickly without risking a patient's life. With that in mind, I set out to improve our usability issues. As a lifelong learner and solution-based designer, I asked to be included in stakeholder meetings to hear firsthand what our users' pain points were and how they were using our software. I researched and taught myself about UX design and created a UX strategy to help improve products. Since then, I've redesigned an entire web-based application. I designed our mobile apps and led the design and development of an application to use to reunite patients with their loved ones following a mass casualty incident, all centered around our users' needs. In the IxD program, my people management experience has been helpful in various projects. Working with team members with different skill sets and strengths was an opportunity to draw from each skill set to help move projects forward and while fostering their growth as well as mine. Being part of the IxD program also allowed me to expand my skills as to create more meaningful interactions. One of the projects I collaborated on was Hey Metro, a touchless COVID-safe voice-operated kiosk where riders can buy and reload tap cards and get information about routes and plan their trips. My role in this project was not only to help uncover solutions for transportation issues post-COVID, but also to manage the project and encourage the team to stay focused and ensure project benchmarks were met. Through collaboration, we were able to design a service that people can connect with. COVID not only limited our interactions with the people we were designing for, but limited the interactions also impacted our team. We had to find collaboration tools that simulated working together in a classroom. And COVID forced us to be resourceful and creative in order to do research, design, prototype, and test. Another project that I collaborated on was transplant. We worked with Grand Park LA to create a way that visitors can take a slice of the park with them. Our project was one of 5 projects chosen to move forward to phase 2. Transplant is an immersive plant experience where visitors using QR codes and their phone can discover sound bites uniquely created for each plant at the park. Visitors can then use those sounds to create and share music with other visitors as a way to build community and engagement. While other teams were composed of 4 to 8 people, our team was a team of 2, and this forced us to be decisive and realistic about concepts in order to quickly test. Despite our challenges, stakeholders were impressed and appreciated that our concept aligned with their goal of creating immersive soundscapes. My last project is Aligned. It's focused on the importance of workplace culture. And workplace culture plays a huge role in the workers' productivity and fosters a sense of community. It's no longer just important to a company. 57% of job seekers now consider job culture as important as salary. Aligned is a tool that job seekers can use to practice interviewing. The application provides insights into how closely users' answers align with the position and culture they select. And it helps job seekers feel confident interviewing and helps them uncover their ideal workplace. I began looking at Netflix freedom and responsibility culture with the intent of finding ways to improve culture at other companies, but pivoted when I realized how big the scope of a project would be. So instead, I focused on ways on improving job seekers' experiences interviewing. So after 18 years at Hospital Association of Southern California, I'm excited to enter the job market and join a company where I can apply my creative problem-solving approach and people management skills to new projects while also having the freedom to grow as a leader and a designer. Thank you.
Yay!
Yeah, thank you, Rosie. By the way, I just want to say this. The brief for this was a pecha so slides move every 20 seconds. I think in the entire class, Rosie's the only one that actually played by the rules and did it. So you're going to graduate, Rosie. That was amazing. Really well done. So proud of you for doing that. Jamila, do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, sure.
Well, okay.
Okay. I really liked everything that you said. Your actual, the actual like context that you were giving as the slides were going was really good. It was well paced. I think the context of what you said, it was a nice mix of talking about kind of the projects, your skill, and your background. What I do wish is that now you've been someplace for 18 years. You've been doing all this work. You've worked on all these great projects. Sorry, my voice changes to loving fussing mode. But you've worked on all of these projects and I didn't see it on the slides. I heard you verbalize it, right? But I would have loved to have seen maybe logos and images of impressive things that you've worked on, places you've worked, maybe even key takeaways on the slides. I realized they were supposed to go quickly, right? And so you don't have a lot of time to read, so you don't want to have a lot of text. But I was looking for key takeaways so that as you're talking, I'm actually zeroing in on here was the challenge, here's the solution, or here was the project, here was my role, or here was the skill that I gained, right? Or here is the differentiating thing that makes me amazing that was part of this team or part of this project and why you want me on your team, right? So I wanted to see on the slides maybe that as like the highlight so that as you're talking, I'm clicking automatically with why she's telling me this or why she's showing me this and how it would make her a great addition to my team. I wonder if on some of the pages with the imagery, you could use different imagery. So in addition to maybe like logos or things like that, but use imagery that actually, and you're going to laugh at this, but that shows a little bit more of your personality in regards to, some of the images, for example, they seemed more like a stock image of like, I'm trying to remember what some of them were, but like a stock image of like, people working together or something like a line drawing, right? Which are fine iconically, to use as icons in different presentations. But I would have liked to have even seen, even if you have to go back and photograph it and pretend, but like you sitting at a table with some people and you're writing some notes, right? Get some friends together and pretend like, or some classmates and pretend like you brainstorming something and take a picture, and like just having those while you're talking, because it infuses a little bit more personality. And as somebody who's watching it, I can imagine you and my team by seeing that. And so I would just encourage you, or I wonder if you could add some more things like that to it. And especially on the My Role page, I think that was a page where you had kind of, it said my role, and then there was like an icon or something like that. Definitely picture of you, it doesn't have to be like a headshot, but it can just be like you naturally working, you at the computer, whatever. And then the aligned, or some of the projects, I kind of already said this, but I was just going to say that I would have liked to see a quick bullet point of like the obstacle and the solution. Just so that I have a better understanding of what you actually took away from it, or the skill that you gained, or what you learned. So hopefully that feedback all makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Jill, thank you for that.
Yeah, well, I will do my best. I think Jamila already gave a lot of great feedback there. So Rosie, thanks for presenting, and happy to be here to share my thoughts with you. What I liked about your presentation, I thought the timing was, it's almost like a Zen garden. You don't know why it feels good, but it does. So Luke, you're right, that timing is there. And I could tell that it was practiced, but not uncomfortable. It didn't feel too rote or mechanical. So I really appreciate that as well. You had a lot of breadth in your projects, and I'd like to echo what she mentioned about having more. Are there icons? Are there logos? Is there some other way to kind of help tell that story a little bit more? Just adds context, because I'm listening, but I'm also looking. And so what am I looking at while I'm listening? And the images that you chose were fine, but I think there's a little bit more that could be added there. I liked how you explained your work. I agree that I would love to see what problem you solved, who you solved it for, or what was the solution. Do you have any metrics on that? In fact, that was one of the things I think I may have missed in the beginning. I was writing some stuff down, especially when you're talking about the medical solution and communication and lives being in danger, or helping create more of successful outcomes. And, if there's some metrics around that, I think those are really important, especially when you're going to work in a team. They want to know, how have you come up with a solution that had a positive impact on the business goals and things like that. So, if you're an emerging designer and you don't have any life experience, you don't really have those metrics yet. But if you have those quantitative metrics, it elevates you deeper into being chosen to be on the team, because you're like, well, this design or this solution increased this by X amount. So show me those numbers, because that's really impressive. And what I liked about this, I was imagining that you could record this and have it in your portfolio and be like, want to get to know me and some of my projects? Here you go. Although I don't know if I'd give that away in the beginning. Honestly, they have to work to see you. But there was I felt like there was something there. What else? Let's see. Again, a lot of range in your projects. I would like to know more about your 18 years, because even if it wasn't as a designer all the time, those experiences that you bring to the table, actually, I'm sure as you all know now, there's no one path to being a product designer, UX designer. All of our past experiences bring us, to where we are at this moment, and we can leverage those things. I did get the sense that you enjoy leading a team, so I think that's great too. Where again, to help bolster that is metrics about success of your work. I love to hear that transplant got promoted to move forward, and even seeing like, okay, what were the things, because you said it, but then I'm like, did I hear it right? And if I was able to read it, I'd be like, okay, cool. So is this sounds for plants or sounds for people? I wasn't quite sure what that was, but they both sounded great regardless, and the community aspect. Yeah, I think that's really it. Final thing, what was the challenge? What was the solution? And do you have a metric from a high level is really what I would be looking for there, and your role, obviously. So with each one. So yeah, great work. And yeah, thanks for listening. Any questions for me, Rosie?
Well, I guess this would be because I know both you and Jamila are mentors, and I wanted to see what are some skills that are important as a designer and a leader that you can't learn through a book or school?
You touched on it in the beginning when you said you asked to sit in on the stakeholder meetings. Knowing what questions to ask, who to ask, when, how to listen, how to gather all that information is something that an emerging designer, one might feel shy about, but also doesn't have the experience with. And it's something that's learned over time. So as I mentor designers, it's a soft skills, coach them on the soft skills. Those are things that you really can't learn. And I think you did touch on that in a couple different ways. And I think that is what leads me to think, okay, she can lead a team. She does know how to get all of the things needed from the stakeholders so that the team can be successful. And so I think, I think that's how I see you differentiating.
To Jill's point, I would say that that exactly what she was just saying. For example, the proactivity of wanting to be curious and understanding a business is huge for a designer. And there are so many designers who don't actually have that, who are amazing talents, but they don't have in a business world, right? Don't have the proactive kind of forethought or resourcefulness or take the initiative, right? To say, hey, I just want to sit in on this meeting. I don't have anything necessarily to do in here. I just want to learn, and then I'm going to find a way to apply this, right? That is actually, to Jill's point, a soft skill that people take for granted. And so in your presentation, when you're talking about the different projects, like she was saying, you want to also say, like, this maybe is something that I learned, or I realized that my ability to, be curious has actually been a huge asset in coming up with ideas, right? You could say something like that. So there's so many different ways to answer your question, because there's so many different skills, but there are so many things that you probably take for granted that you do really well, that people who are hiring, that are very skilled at hiring, will be looking for, and you won't even realize it. And so I think maybe having some more conversations with like other coworkers or other students or even teachers, and asking them, like, what do you think are the things that like really make me stand out? You'll get a list back that you'll be surprised at, probably. And you can highlight those things as you go through your presentation.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, and congratulations, Rosie. Really nice job. We're going to move on to Crystal. Crystal is our last student presenting today. And just a little bit about her context before Crystal goes. So Crystal has had some unexpected circumstances come up the last few weeks, and yet still made the choice to press on and present today, which I truly admire. And she's also looking forward to feedback about what sticks and what doesn't, and telling of her design journey or additional advice. So Crystal, you're awesome. You're up.
And Jill, will you take the lead on this one?
Sure.
Thank you. Hey there. I'm Crystal.
an interaction designer guided by a strong belief in design as a problem-solving tool, a way of recognizing and forming relationships between ideas and reality, and a method for improving relationships. I believe in the impact of empathy, the strength of collaboration, and that any box can be transformed into a throne. Today, I will be sharing a little bit about Meta Thoughts, a project I've been working on. I'll tell you some of the obstacles I faced, how I overcame them, and the lessons I've learned in the process. But before I get to that, let me tell you a little about who I am and what led me to work on a project exploring our relationships between our thoughts and realities. I grew up in Holland, Michigan, and was remarkably curious, creative, and intelligent. Taking college math in second grade, designing a house at 14, and earning a private pilot and scuba licenses at 16. After high school, I studied cosmetology and sport marketing. Both of these were a lot of fun, and my background in business and marketing reveals itself in every project by ensuring feasibility, budget, and overall business goals are never forgotten. 8 years ago, I moved to California and attempted to break free from the eating disorder I had been battling for 20 years. I achieved that goal, but life in recovery started off rough. After leaving treatment, I experienced significant trauma and losses that still affect me today. But what didn't kill me made me stronger and a better designer. My experience navigating adversity taught me to iterate as a lifestyle, that everything is a prototype. There's more than one side to every story, and the only true way out is through. It also gave me the chance to learn about cognitive psychology, the brain, health, and human behavior. When I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue, I read that the condition is a miscommunication between the CNS and the ENS. So I tried to think my body into healing. My interest in the mind-body connection first led to Skidmore, a health and behavior change system that combines smart pill technology with AR to improve messages being sent along the gut-brain axis. As I further explored the psychological aspect of what goes on in our brain and how it affects our lives, I became curious as to how others experience thoughts, which led to my project Mega Thoughts. My first big revelation was that I'm not typical and that most people don't spend as much time thinking about their thoughts as I do, which created a bit of a snafu when I started interviewing people for the project. I found a way around the thought oblivion by asking people questions like, close your eyes and imagine you are walking to a room of 20 people, and as you walk in, they all turn and look at you. What's your first thought? That question got everything from who can I connect with here to it's time to start this funeral. When I chose to conduct asynchronous video interviews, it seemed like a great idea. I'd avoid scheduling delays and participants could answer the questions at their convenience. But I'm a researcher with uniquely high levels of empathy and curiosity, and I missed the conversational aspect and connection I typically experience during interviews. Although the participants didn't mind, if I was to do it over again, I would have scheduled a coffee date or invite them on a walk for the interview. I've also realized face-to-face communication is the best way to feel connected, show empathy, and build trust. Research has shown that storytelling builds empathy, and the only way to know what someone is feeling is to ask. Well, unless you're watching this video. These statements are quite obvious when you think about it and are the reason I'm passionate about storytelling through design. What I'm most proud of about the Meta Thoughts project is that it's taught me to trust the process and myself, and that by stepping out of my comfort zone for a monumental moment, I truly understood the power of collaboration and connection. If you want to learn more about the Meta Thoughts project, watch the video documenting my research, or simply find out how to hack a bag of potato chips, the case study can be found on my portfolio site, crystalmunson.myportfolio.com. Thank you.
You did it. All right. Nice work, Crystal. Thank you. Jill, do you want to take the lead?
Yeah, and Crystal, is it okay if I ask you a question? I just also want to say that I appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate your candor and your honesty. And I think, I'm going to ask you a question in a moment, but whenever I've hired people for a job, I always ask them, why did they choose this career? Because that tells me a lot. And I feel like you spoke to that, you like to story tell. I also have interviewed so many people over time. There's some people who seem like they don't want to be there. They seem like they're bored or something. And I've talked to people that were so nervous that they were just sweating. And, or, again, bringing up something kind of emotional. I would much prefer to work with someone who is either maybe also, not in this instance, but crying because they're excited or this means a lot to them or a little bit shaky or something. That's an authenticity that I can work with. And I think it shows a vulnerability and a humility. And I think, there's no room for huge, big egos in product design and strategy. And so I think that's something that I witnessed with you today. And so thank you for that. I do have a question for you, and I apologize for my lack of understanding it, but could you simply state the problem that you solved and the solution? And just one more time for me, not through the presentation or anything else.
With the meta thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't necessarily a problem as much as like just the research and trying a project where I just like followed where the research led me rather than like
Gotcha.
trying to follow the steps. So
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to frame my thoughts around it appropriately. And I like that because I think a lot of times you can jump into research and be like, what am I going to find out here? And it's kind of a self-discovery as well as, kind of a sociological, anthropological study in some ways too. So, okay. I really liked the pictures of yourself in the beginning. I love that you had a title, your name and your title. Oh my gosh, that helps me so much because that sets the stage for, who you are and the work that you like to do. I know, again, you're following the slide cadence, but I would have loved to seen the pictures of scuba. And did you say pilot's license?
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay, so I want to see a picture, even if it's just of a plane or something. I don't know, but like that's phenomenal. And the fact that you did that. So my dad learned how to fly when he was 12, and so and my son is wanting to fly right now too. So anyway, and that's where when you share something personal like that, this is where a community starts to happen and a familiarity happens. And I'm like, oh, we have similar interests. I would like to learn more about Crystal. I want to see, not only do I possibly like her work, but am I going to enjoy working with Crystal? So I think that those are some things. It's the things beyond just the work that you do that make us who we are. And so I really appreciated learning those things about you. And again, it worked. Let's see. So meta thought. It was interesting. I think you're mentioning the gut-brain relationship. That's something else that fascinates me because I take a certain probiotic every day for particular reasons. And I totally understand that and have felt it on my own. I'm like, I want to learn more about that. So I feel like this research could take you into so many different paths, and it's exciting to me. I really liked your quote, everything is a prototype. I would have liked to have seen it on the presentation itself. I thought it was a really great quote. I think you had another one earlier in the beginning as well. And yeah, I think my only other thoughts for you is just, I do wonder where this is going to take you. Will you continue your research, and will it be this, kind of, what am I thinking? You can just bounce around the internet forever. Could click this link, click that link. Or do you imagine that you will, as you go, you're like, oh, you'll start to find some threads or something, and something that does take you down a specific path regarding, thoughts and reality. So
My next step is to interview kids and see how that kind of contrasts with the adults, and
love that.
See where that goes. So
yeah, they're so pure. They're tabula rasa, the blank slates, and they're not as jaded yet. So it's interesting. That would be a wonderful study. And that's what I love about product design, UX design, interaction design. It's about human behavior in a thing, whether it's a digital thing or a physical thing. Like what is that? So I love anthropology, sociology, psychology, criminology. Like I love all of it. And so it's, to me, again, it's the foundation of, again, an inquisitive mind, like Luke mentioned earlier. And that's something that's important in the design career. So thank you, Crystal.
Jamila, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Okay. So I loved that first slide. That first slide, immediately when I saw it, I was like, all right, this is cool. I'm getting a sense of her, like, as a designer, because you had that chair made out of FedEx boxes or something, whatever that was in the middle. But then you also had the pictures of you on the sides, or on one side, right? So it was kind of that perfect combination of you as a person and you as a designer. And so I really loved that first image. You really showed, and then I think your next slide was like your wall of Post-its, right? And I love how it was zoomed in the beginning, and then you ended with it zoomed out and you were included in the image on the end of your presentation. I don't know if you did that on purpose or if it just was accidental, but to me, it kind of came across as genius. Because I think it immediately, regardless of what the Post-its even said on it, I immediately went, oh, this person has a process. Like, there's a process, she's creative, you know, whatever. Like, that's the immediate thought people have when they see a wall of Post-its with a bunch of stuff on it. So I thought that was actually really, really done well. I loved your transparency, your genuineness, and your sharing your why. Because again, same thing, I echo that Jill said, as someone who hires a lot of people, that is the thing that differentiates you from other people. When I understand what motivates you, when I understand your why, and when I know that you are not only humble and creative, but also self-aware. That is a superpower a lot of designers do not have. I, being a designer myself, so I'm not talking about all designers, but some of us are not as self-aware as we could be. And working in a business environment, that's a huge, huge asset. So it very much came across in your presentation without you having to, use the word self-aware. I do wish that, number one, I wish more people had your courage. That's just from a personal standpoint. I wanted to say that. But I do wish that you had more balance of slides or a few additional slides of your work, or that went a little bit, I love how you ended it with go to my website, see this video, whatever. But that, to kind of Jill's point, I think of her question, which is maybe just a little bit more on the research side. And maybe if the research is kind of ongoing, maybe it's even just sharing like the main insights that have come from my research so far are, right? And then my next project is to expand into, working with kids of this age group. And then the same thing that you said, check out my website for, video, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think that balance would have been nice, because as a person, again, who hires a lot of people, we have to be careful of not having the bias of like, I want to go hang out with Crystal. Like, I totally, after watching that and listening, I'm like, oh, I want to go hang out with her. But when we're hiring, we always have to be like, okay, it's the skill and the person, right? So like, I want to see a little bit more of the skill that is obvious that you have through your presentation, but I want to see it kind of in black and white. And so I guess that was my wonder, was just on the thoughts part, on the meta thoughts, was just a little bit more of a synopsis of what that project has been, what the research is centered around, and then, like I said, the insights that you've gained so far from it. And then just from a personal standpoint, and this is for all three of y'all, but specifically for Crystal, from a personal standpoint, never lose track of your why, but also never be embarrassed or worried about showing your emotions, because that's huge. For many people, I work at a company, but I also have a small business that started because of depression, hopelessness, and infertility. And that's a part of my story and what makes me a good designer for the products that I design for my personal business. So I think that for a lot of people, they try to hide that stuff because, they think that professional means that you show up in a certain way. And so I just want to encourage you and all of you guys to, like, that is your story, and your why is very important. And it's the thing that will keep you motivated when you run into roadblocks in your career. So anyways, thank you for sharing and thank you for your transparency, and yeah, great presentation.
Thank you.
Great. Crystal, we have about a minute or so. Is there anything that you wanted to follow up or any additional questions that you had?
No.
Okay.
I feel like if I open my mouth, I'm going to start crying again. So I'm just going to.
She's like, I made it. I'm done.
Well, listen, this has been a really wonderful hour and a great way to spend time together. And I really wanted to thank everyone. And I wanted to start out by thanking both Jamila and Jill for coming. So to our, to our industry professionals, thank you for showing up, being present, and giving some great feedback. I also wanted to thank our students. Right. So we've talked about this quite a bit, but like, you're our first COVID class, none of you signed up for this. It's really a testament to you that you finished the program, and thank you for all your work. And then I wanted to end by thanking the people who are watching. I've said this before, but like, there's a myth that designers specifically do it alone. That's rubbish. Great teams make great products, and you've clearly had great team of support. So if you have people out there who are supporting you, friends, families, partners, pets, whatever, thank you for supporting the students as they've gone through their journey. Their success is your success. So it's been great. So that's it for today. Take care of yourself and each other. And again, thank you for a great hour on culture.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Good luck. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For those of you who are out there watching, we are going to take a brief break. We will be back at 3:10 with our apps and platforms session, starting again at 3:10.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. Can you check the chat for me real quick?
Let's see. We're streaming, so everything good enough? Yeah, everything's good. You can talk to chat.
Hi, everyone. We're going to get started here in a second. There he is. Hey, Ben, how's it going? So, hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2022 IxD Grad Show Live. My name is Luke Johnson, and the projects you'll see today are part of the Senior Studio class. Before we get started, I wanted to welcome IxD Program Lead Nicole Chan, who will talk about the IxD program, and welcome our guests.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Nicole Chan, as Luke mentioned, and I'm the IxD program lead. SMC IxD program is very unique. It's the only interaction design bachelor's program at a community college in the United States. So for those watching on YouTube, the IxD program began its first cohort of students in the fall of 2016 as one of 15 pilot bachelor's programs in the state of California. And this past fall, the SMC IxD program was made officially permanent by the state of California, and we are excited to graduate the 5th cohort on Saturday. So I'll go ahead and introduce our special guests for today. So these are the industry experts who are going to be providing feedback for these presentations. So I want to go ahead and start with Ben. Will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name's Ben. I'm an industrial designer, so more on the physical product side. Working at a consulting firm in Venice, California, so in the community. And we've recently connected with SMC on a couple projects, from mentoring to running an industry sponsored projects with one of our clients. And yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Hi, Mish. Are you able to introduce yourself? Hi.
Yes, hello, hi. My name is Mish. I am a learning experience designer with IDOU. I'm currently in LA, born and raised, have worked in many different places around the world. Now I'm currently based in work-wise in San Francisco. And yeah, learning experience design is a really interesting mix of thinking about what learners need and what the various contexts and the goals are, and creating either kind of software or online experiences that can get them to reach their goals.
Thank you.
So,
welcome.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Glad to be here. Good to see you.
Hi, Mish. Nice to meet you as well this first time. So thank you for being here as well. So this year's capstone reflects an 8-week sprint. So, if you think about traditional like senior thesis projects, are usually a semester long. We tried something new this year and tried to condense it down to 8-week sprint. So really great job, seniors, and working under those constraints. We've also tried to highlight student work around a theme. And so for this group of students, we're going to look at apps and platforms. The way that the presentation is going to work is students have 5 minutes to present, and then we'll have our industry guests with around 10 minutes of feedback. Nicole, do you want to talk a little bit more about the feedback?
Yeah, so a suggestion for feedback structure is the I like, I wish, I wonder method. So I like is a starting point for what went well or what is positive. I wish is a starting point for what could be done differently or improved. And then I wonder is a great place to begin with questions, some things that might still be unanswered, and then some ideas. So we're going to go ahead and start with Juliana. And Mish, I was hoping that you would take the lead on the feedback for this presentation.
Sure, I would love to.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, it's great to meet you, Mish. Hi to everyone else that I know. Good to see you guys. Let me make sure everyone can see my screen. All good here?
Looks good.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about Circular, an environmental tool to shop consciously. Circular incentivizes shoppers and clothing retailers to become part of a circular economy by offering discounts at partner stores. The fashion industry is not slowing down, but a lot needs to be changed in terms of how we consume clothing goods to support our planet. First, let's understand what circular means. A circular economy consists of turning a product that is no longer of use to consumers into the raw material it started as, to become a new product, and we'll get back into the consumer's hands that way. In the fashion industry, you can also hear the term circular fashion. Now, let's tie that with sustainability. It's no news to anyone that alarming changes to our planet are occurring due to human consuming behaviors. We're exhausting our crops, creating products that take way longer than a human lifetime to disappear from the earth, valuing gluttony over animals' lives, and mass producing for financial profit. Even when trying to look for sustainable sources for production, like sustainably grown cotton, for example, we have to take in consideration that it takes 2,700 liters of water to make a single cotton shirt. With fast fashion being stronger than ever and 14 million tons of clothing ending up in landfills each year, I believe circular fashion, in this case, recycling, is the best solution moving forward. That's why I would love to continue to develop this project post-graduation. Now, how do we get clothing brands to manufacture and sell sustainable goods while getting consumers to recycle their no longer usable clothing? The idea here is that by partnering up with retailers that are looking to improve their sustainability efforts while offering discounts to shoppers that recycle their old clothing through our service, will incentivize both sides of the industry to become more environmentally aware. There's financial and mission-driven profit opportunity in all parties included. When interviewing subject matter experts and consumers that fall into your target audience, I learned that even the most sustainably savvy consumers are looking for convenience and have a hard time finding reputable answers to their daily concerns of how to dispose of certain items and the backstory of the products they're consuming. Circular's mission is to provide sustainability education through monetary incentives and reach a broader audience, a broader consumer audience, ranging from shoppers that are already well-versed in sustainable living to shoppers that just love a good discount and will take any chance they can get a few dollars off a product. I also know there are companies such as Patagonia, Outer Known, 4 Days, and a few others that make recycling a part of their program and mission. But what's missing in the mist is a service that caters to smaller companies that do not have the same budget as the companies mentioned, making them have to compromise on the sourcing of their goods. That's the gap I'm trying to fill. Discounts will not save the world, but I believe immersion will. Using well-known marketing techniques and continuous sustainability content exposure while using our service and following us on social media will create a higher chance of mindset change to the tougher shoppers to crack. I want Circular to be known as a sustainability leader who consumers and businesses can look up to when trying to make sustainability a part of their day-to-day life. You can see above some successful examples of businesses driven by mission content on social media. Here's how it works. Using a system similar to what 4 Days does, we'll have a shipping label product description page featured on our partner's website. There will have permanent discount information and instructions on how to make their first recycling return by scanning the QR code available or clicking in the link in the product description. In efforts to optimize the experience by reducing consumer costs and waste in comparison to 4 Days, we'll be offering a shipping label only and incentivizing shoppers to use a brown paper bag to measure how many items they can send and reuse a shipping container from a previous online purchase. When scanning the QR code or reaching the website through digital marketing efforts, the shopper will be prompted to create an account before starting their new recycling shipment. There are step-by-step instructions available, a wallet feature so the user can track their points that can be turned into discounts, and explore and favorite features where the shopper can find a roster of partner stores and favorite the ones they love. In the future, partnering up with a well-established payment service that is looking to make efforts towards sustainability as well is a possibility I'd like to explore. By bringing in a checkout partner, we can offer installment payments to guests and make our wallet application even more seamless. It'll also help our circular to reach broader audiences. As a young millennial that feels a bit doomed by climate change and has made environmental sustainability one of the most important subjects to work within my personal and professional life, Circular has been a passion project that allowed me to connect with and learn about a lot of people my age that feel the same way and can't wait to make change happen. The fashion industry is just the first step and one of the most approachable entry points within a digitally savvy population. I hope to have made you interested in my mission, and I'm looking forward to find allies that will enrich the service in any way possible. I look forward to your questions, personal thoughts, and professional feedback, as well as stories you may have revolving around sustainability. Thank you so much for listening.
Great. Thank you, Juliana. I really appreciate it. So Mish, if you take the lead, and then if there's time, Ben, you mind stepping in. So Mish.
Awesome. Well, Juliana, great to meet you, and well done on your project. It was so cool to see somebody taking on this idea of fast fashion and the circular economy and in such a really practical, holistic way. So well done right off the bat. One question I wanted to ask you before I get started on the I like, I wish, and I wonders is can you tell me a story about like what really made you choose to work on this problem in particular?
Yeah, I've been looking for ways to tackle sustainability in a way that I felt like it was approachable to people like me who are very interested in, being better for the planet in general, but also enjoy consuming and just trying to be very mindful of the fact that, consumerism isn't going anywhere. I was trying to just bridge that gap at making things educational and helpful, but also keeping in mind that we can't just live in a hippie society and everything will be beautiful all of a sudden. I was trying to find a medium ground, and I've been looking for something that could be the entry point to that for a long time. So that's kind of how I got into this project.
Right. So wanting to do something about this problem that a lot of your peers are perceiving, and recognizing that we all kind of live in a system and can't really upheave the entire system and their realities within it. And then one more question, I noticed during the presentation and just now in your answer, you used the word approachable. So could you dig into that a little more? What makes this project more approachable, the most approachable option of the ones you considered?
I can use veganism as a good example. I feel like anyone that's trying to tackle sustainability and like use veganism, for example, they tend to be very, not all of them, of course, but a lot of people tend to be very radical. And it might cause this misconception of this is not good, for people that are not doing it right away. It's like, I want to make sure that this is not guilt shaming people that are not being very sustainable at the moment, but actually calling them into the cause and making them understand why it's important versus, kind of calling them out because they're not being like that at the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So I think that answer kind of ties into the I like of it. So first of all, I thought you did such a good job off the bat framing the problem and explaining the mission of what it is. It's a circular economy, tying it into fashion and clothing and shopping in particular, and making it a really accessible and approachable way of doing something about it, something that you already have in your house, which are the clothes, which are the brown paper bags, an app on your phone, which you most likely have. So I can see how you prioritize that throughout your design, which is really cool. And one kind of, wish I had was a little bit more of that storytelling. So when I was asking some follow-up questions or wanting to know, like, either Juliana or a friend or somebody who's like me, somebody who's also a millennial who's really like feeling discouraged, like what might a journey, like a user journey for them look like? The story of somebody, buying a couple t-shirts and then realizing that they were tricked into buying a couple more through an online sale, and they realized, oh, I have too much and I want to reduce my consumption, but I want to do it in a responsible way. So kind of tying it into those like accessible real life examples, and illustrating and bringing more detail into the, and color and story into the person who's using this service, I think would be a great addition. And then and that ties into I wonder as well, like how to use that story also to help the audience keep track of the flow of how the product works, the app works, how the app interacts with other retailers potentially, or other businesses, and a roadmap for the future, just to give a kind of like a holistic spatial orientation of what a trajectory might be. So kind of speaking your success into existence, right? Like, this is what's going to happen, and this is exactly where we are now, just from a kind of like a business perspective.
Got it. Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely could have added. I have some stories, like personal, and some people that I interviewed that really resonated with me, and even sound bites that are so precious. I can definitely add those in the future.
Yeah, I love that. And that speaks a lot to you as a researcher and as a collaborator, that you were so driven and you're able to, number one, surface those, and then you're driven and have those in with you as you go through your design process, which is very evident in the final presentation.
Thank you.
Great. Ben, do you have anything you want to build on that?
Yeah, thanks. Presentation was amazing. I got to see it kind of as it was evolving, and final presentation looks great. I love how you framed and kind of introduced the sustainability, circularity information. It's very easy to digest, and that's definitely an area people kind of get lost in. So if it's not like super clear, super simple, It reminds me when I used to work for Vans shoes. I worked for the ProTech protective equipment, and they told me when I was talking about protective equipment, just show people falling, essentially. That sort of draws people in. So yeah, I liked how you had those really impactful images, which really kind of drew the viewer in. Yeah, I love the wallet for discounts is great. I like how you are kind of building on discounting. Like we've gotten into some of that data at the company I work for, and yeah, just straight up like giving people money off for nothing isn't as impactful as something that's tied to it that has a bit more meaning behind it. Like whether it's that this is entering the circular economy, so you're helping the environment, whether it's a sort of a free gift for purchase type of item. So that definitely works out great for drawing people in. The whole system, the simplicity of the shipping labels, very nice, simple, easy to use. If it's too many steps, that kind of loses people as well. So I like how focused that is. And I agree that overall, it's very focused, approachable, like you said. There's not too much. It's not trying to do too many things, so that doesn't confuse people. And then for the wish, I guess could you expand a little more on the point system? Is it just the more you kind of send things through the circular economy, the more points you gather? Is that kind of how that works?
Yeah, so the idea was that you would receive a discount right away on the purchase you're completing in that store, just so you can go through with buying the shipping label. And then after you do your first return, you would get points that you can use towards discounts again. And the more you send stuff in for recycling, the more points you gather. And of course, the stores can add a cap into how many points you can use for discounts. Let's say this store wants 30% off tops to be used with discounts. We'll have all that system in the wallet as well. But it's just to really incentivize people to be just getting rid of what they don't need so it can go back into recycling.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I love that. I think it could even go, this is just a total off the wall thing, but you could even incentivize people to send back things that aren't quite as sustainable. So maybe the least sustainable the product is, the more points you get. So it's kind of like a system of, if something is like organic cotton is, very sustainable, but if it's something that's, plastic, like nylon things, maybe you're sort of incentivizing people to send back things that aren't as sustainable, which kind of creates the whole circular economy.
Mm-hmm.
Could be something as it grows and develops. And then the only thing I wonder, just as it kind of grows and scales, I know there needs to be more infrastructure for this, but maybe you could create sort of drop boxes in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that goes in with the partnering with people. I could see that at like Whole Foods or stores like that, which would be great opportunities for partnering. But yeah, maybe as it grows and there's more infrastructure, that could make it even easier as they just sort of drop the products off. So
definitely.
And yeah, that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you.
Excellent work.
Thanks.
Great work, Juliana. We have a time for maybe one or two questions. Is there anything that you wanted to follow up with any of our guests, just for clarification, or things you're curious about?
No, I'm actually just very thankful for the feedback. I felt like it was super insightful. I think the Dropbox idea is great and definitely something I want to look into. And yeah, any kind of sustainability anecdote or any fashion moment that you have, or how you dispose of your clothing personally, like what do you do? It's always a good insight for me to gather. So if you guys wanted to share anything of that sort, I would love to listen.
Yeah. Well, I wish I found myself wishing to use this product because I don't think there's a great way. There's a donation box in the gas station that I go to most often, and there's a kind of a Goodwill drop-off place that I go to, trying really hard also to get a higher quality piece of clothing that I will wear for a longer time, and kind of transcend style is an aspiration that I have and hope to get to one day. And then, one thing I was really curious about is like what happens once it has been sent in for recycling? Like what's the data on the other end? Like what percentage of it goes to being turned into raw material? What percentage gets consigned and it's sold again? I have the same questions around like single-use plastics. How much of it actually gets a second life versus going to a landfill anyway? So that's just a curiosity that came up for me.
Yeah, we were hoping to have buckets of what can be donated and still usable and what actually cannot be usable anymore. And when researching for this project, I learned that most clothing goods can be recycled. So that was a good motivator for me to actually go forward with it. But yeah, we'd have to work with a partner, like a recycling partner, to make sure everything, or at least most of it, is being recycled, and hopefully work with our clothing partners to see if they can get into that supply chain of sourcing the better product from the get-go to make sure, it's a symbiotic world of fashion, if that makes sense.
Well, thank you, Juliana. Really great work. We're going to transition next to David. What's great about, one way that students could pursue this project was, as Juliana presented sort of like a potential business idea, another opportunity for students was to present their work as part of a larger design practice. And so part of the feedback for David would be around like, what's the storytelling? How is he presenting his sort of larger design practice and how he arrived at that? So without further ado, David, you've got a great presentation, excited to hear it, and we'll kick it over to you.
Well, thank you all very much for your time today. Hello, my name is David Pope. I build tools that get products off the shelf and into customers' carts. I'm an interaction designer who specializes in e-commerce web development, product design, and warehouse logistics. A little known fact about me is that I'm an identical mirror twin. As children, we share everything, everyone, and every event. And to be honest, it wasn't easy. The world treated Daniel and I like the same person, even to the extent that I was taught to be right-handed when I was naturally born using my left. This is because Daniel was born right-hand dominant, and so was the rest of my family. I guess a pair of left-handed scissors were out of my parents' budget. Daniel and I come from a big blended family where we're the youngest of 6 boys. My older brothers have always been the most significant influence in my life. And ironically, I chose to pursue a future in design, not because it was a path that I thought I was naturally talented in, but because it was a journey unlike any of theirs. I felt a desire to break away from my twin identity, so I set off on my unpredictable design journey as soon as I graduated high school. In 2014, I moved to Orange County for a fresh start. In the beginning, I didn't know many people, so I found myself going for long hikes alone to pass the time. Through my solo adventures, I developed a passion for photography and design. And through this, I began developing my own personal brand, Wanderlost. Inspired by the J.J.R. Tolkien quote, not all who wander are lost. But to be quite honest, I found this quite comforting just to express my lack of personal direction through design. In 2015, I found a job working at a nonprofit called America's Children of Fallen Heroes. Our mission was to serve the young men and women who have lost a hero parent in the U.S. military, law enforcement, and fire department. My responsibilities was to develop many of the organization's marketing assets. I was consistently pushed out of my comfort zone to learn new tools as well as designing on the fly. Unfortunately, the nonprofit lived up to its name. We didn't make any money, so I needed to find another way to pay my bills. Through a friend, I got a job making social media ads for a sports handicapper. While I love sports, I was morally conflicted. I found the work of making ads quite soulless, and even worse, I felt like I was anonymously contributing to someone's gambling addiction. Of course, the work paid my bills, but I knew I needed to move on and contribute to something more significant in this world. So in 2016, I began developing a business with a financial planner friend. This company was called Do You Know Todd? Our mission was to create an opportunity for homeowners to protect their homes from probate during the end-of-life planning. For the next 2 years, I took on roles developing wireframes and setting up user interviews to test our platform. While our business eventually failed, I walked away with a fresh perspective and a new goal. I wanted to go back to school and learn the fundamentals of UX design and its best practices to better prepare for my next entrepreneurial adventure. With my goal in mind, I found Santa Monica's IxD program and applied. I couldn't put into words how nervous and excited I was to be accepted in the program. And Safe Here was one of my first group school projects. My team and I designed a mobile application aimed to help local business owners report COVID-19 safety concerns to safety ambassadors on Main Street, Santa Monica. My greatest takeaway from this project is that technology rarely solves any problems. It's the people who use these tools that are doing the actual work. One of my favorite projects to work on was Agenda, a desktop for work. This desktop tool aimed to help users focus while working by removing distracting desktop notifications and displaying only the most urgent messages to the user. My key takeaway from this project is that all users aren't the same. Everyone has different habits, and one design solution does not often work for everyone. Community science by far was the most fun project I worked on this program. Our team partnered with Grand Park in downtown Los Angeles with the shared goal to create a solution that made visitors feel warm and welcome. Through our research, we discovered that Grand Park events could be enhanced by installing poster making stations that allowed visitors to express themselves through the creative process. So for my capstone project, I wanted to design for an industry that brings millions of people joy, including myself. Watching and listening stand-up comedy has always been a passion of mine. And through the ups and downs of my career, comedy was always there to bring me happiness. So through my research, I found that the major platforms are underserving comedians. Netflix buys specials, but does not share their audience. YouTube and Apple Podcasts host content, but does a poor job driving ticket sales. The comedy industry is fractured, and there is an opportunity to assist comedians by developing their careers. I work to design a media platform that helps comics share their specials, podcasts, and upcoming shows. This will allow viewers to follow their favorite comics by connecting a major media channels in one location with the aim to drive ticket sales. Along with the schoolwork, my brother and I started an e-commerce and fulfillment company out of a 75 square foot warehouse in the basement of Santa Monica, at a basement building in Santa Monica. Fast forward a few years, and today we operate our business out of a 100 square foot warehouse in Los Angeles, manning over 500 unique products and over $10 million worth of merchandise. What began as a modest game of connecting the dots has quickly turned into a mission in how organizations streamline their processes. Because my work in and out of school, I feel that I have sharpened my skills and I have learned the tools needed to serve our customers today, as well as my projects of tomorrow. I'm happy to share with you that I can finally afford my own pair of left-handed scissors, but all jokes aside, I'm so thankful for the teachers here that have provided me the confidence I need to move on to my next entrepreneurial adventure. However, I worry the collaborative opportunities I experienced during school will soon be few and far in between. So any advice on how to stay connected with the design community post-graduation would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
All right, David. Ben, if you don't mind taking the lead on the feedback for this round, and then Nish, if there's time, we'll go to you.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, excellent work. I do love the storytelling that Luke mentioned behind it. I like how it is sort of a personal journey that you take us through. That really, when you started out with showing pictures of yourself, as a kid, your brothers, telling a story about kind of your past, that adds a very human and emotional element to it, which is great. I know a lot of advertisers really aim to do that. Google's commercials, they always try to add some sort of emotional element to it to kind of humanize everything. So I thought that was great. Yeah, you have really nice presentation style. I thought that went super well. The way you talked about it, you can tell you're passionate about these projects, and which is a nice flow from the background on yourself. You can really kind of tell your whole journey and passion behind everything. For the wish, the only thing I can think of is maybe because it is sort of a journey, you're talking about yourself, kind of your past work, and then getting into the capstone project. So I would just say maybe presentation-wise, you could do sort of an intro, just kind of mapping out the journey. Like you could kind of start out with, like, this is kind of the journey I'm going to take you through, kind of in the first slide, and then in the end. I do like how you tied it all together with the left-handed scissors. I thought that was really nice. But yeah, maybe in the beginning and the end, you could kind of talk about the whole trajectory of the whole project as an intro, and then sort of a summary at the end. And then just sort of graphically, I wonder, similarly, you could sort of use things like maybe colors or icons or just headers that kind of differentiate the different parts, like the about me, the past projects, the current projects. So just to kind of take the viewer kind of through the whole experience, which kind of helps with the flow. But yeah, other than that, I thought it was amazing and great work.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great feedback. I appreciate it.
No worries.
Mish, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in. So, David, I am also left-handed, and I have learned a very specific way of using scissors, which is I have to squeeze the two blades together and cut almost backwards for it to work. So,
Oh, wow.
all this to say, I feel your pain.
Appreciate it.
I relate a lot. So that's a great example of, way to use your story to draw us in and make us feel connected to you as a presenter, you as a storyteller. So that's the first I'll start off with. I love one of the first things you said, getting products off of shelves and into carts. So we love a moment of personal branding. And if there's a way you could kind of bring that in and use that to highlight different moments along your presentation where you said, oh, and this is also a moment when I took, Vita Coco drinks off of shelves and into carts with this partner. So like bringing in, as Ben was saying, some of that architecture and that flow that helps the audience kind of orient themselves in that story. But yeah, I thought throughout, as you talk about kind of your hero's like origin story, you made your motivations very clear. I was never asking why. You were making your why very clear, very obvious. You were answering it, which made me feel kind of secure and interested and invested in your success. I'm curious. So moving to one I wish is, I really liked how you drew out key takeaways from each of your projects during the IXD program. I thought they were fantastic and very true takeaways. And I was craving a connection between how you're using those takeaways in your current design practice. So, I realized that people are the key to making sure our technology works. That's such an excellent insight that you drew. How might we more explicitly connect that to future projects that you're doing, or maybe a like personal like design design manifesto that you have that says, I, David, as a designer, I like always make sure that the person is bought in.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then I love that last kind of provocation you left us with. How do I stay connected as a designer in this community? And first of all, I'm really glad that the folks in this call were able to facilitate that sense of community for you. And I encourage you to, I don't know, my personal philosophy is if you reach out, people will reach back. Not everybody will, but through the reaching out, and I think designers in particular, they like ritual and they like ceremonies. So any ways that you could have like an alumni gathering and help people get together on a quarterly basis, or have like crits amongst each other and a career support group. This is what I'm working on at work. What do you guys think? And just continuing to build each other up. I see a lot of opportunity for that.
That's great. Great ideas. Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you for sharing such an excellent presentation.
I appreciate it.
David, is there anything else that you're curious about or want to follow up with regarding anything that you presented or from any of our guests?
I guess really it's just like, I am deeply kind of concerned about, like, as I move on to this like kind of entrepreneurial career that I kind of stay in, I often find myself designing solutions in a vacuum or with people who don't have a shared background with me. So I'm like wondering like what kind of opportunities are out there just to kind of like insert myself in new communities where people bounce ideas off of each other and kind of have this design thinking frame of mind. That's what I'm kind of like hoping that I can get pointed to in that kind of direction.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Kind of staying connected with people is key, especially now, sort of post pandemic. People are definitely feeling like, as people feel, safer to get together. There's definitely more gatherings and kind of meet and greets and networking events starting to pop up. So, yeah, I definitely explore those, and then design thinking is always a good strategy to kind of work on. There's lots of good workshops too, like through many, I'm sure through SMC and other schools around. So there's a lot in the professional ed world too. So I've attended a couple of those up in the Bay Area, and you always meet other designers in different industries and business people, and that's a great way to just sign up for a workshop on design thinking or anything. But LinkedIn, it's always solid. It's one that we use. That's a big tool for us at work. We do a lot of prospecting. My current company, we worked a lot with the travel industry. So when the pandemic hit, the travel industry got hit pretty hard. So we took that opportunity to sort of change our business model to not be so leveraged in the travel industry, to kind of reach out to people in other industries. And a lot of it was done over LinkedIn, over sort of, virtual events back then, more in-person events now. Conferences, those are always good as they kind of come back. Hopefully
that's great advice.
And one thing I would add to that is, well, first of all, I mean, I'm at IDEO currently, so a lot of design thinking stuff. We have a program called Open IDEO where you can join these like open competitions, not really competitions, but hey, here's like something we're curious about, and anyone can join and submit a project. So that's one way to get involved in the larger community and meet other designers. And then like the thing about all the students I've met and through in this program, and like what I saw in your presentation, is you have a really wide variety of experiences and interests. And that is such an advantage because you can curate how you present yourself to be more motivating to the other person and what their like needs and curiosities are. So getting to know your audience ahead of time and being able to choose and hone your presentation or your talking points to again be motivating for them, it creates that shortcut.
That's smart.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Nicole to wrap things up. Nicole, any advice for David about keeping community and anything you want to build on there?
Well, do we have time to ask our guest your favorite question? Any advice?
Yes, actually, we do, because we have two students in this group. Yeah,
that's my favorite part. Sorry, I didn't want to cut that out.
No problem. Okay, so listen, we're graduating, right? They've passed. They made it through. Everyone survived. All right. So great work, you two. You're going to be transitioning out of the academic world into the professional world. Both of you are already doing that anyway, but it is sort of a shift. So I did want to ask both Ben and Mish, like, do you have any advice for our students as they start to make that transition? Anything that you think would be helpful? You know, this is a graduation, this is your mini commencement speech, if you will. Any advice for our students and those who are watching out there?
Yeah, I agree with Misha. You said earlier, like reaching out to people. Just don't be afraid to reach out to people, no matter who they are, what what level they're at. You know, people, you'd be surprised who responds back. Should never be afraid to just, yeah, send a message to sort of your dream contact on LinkedIn. You know, they might in the moment get it and respond back right away. So, and then, you know, maybe not. So it's always a numbers game. So you can reach out to as many people as you like to try to build your network. That leads me to, yeah, building your network is always a good idea. So if you can check out local firms like us. You know, as we start doing more in-person things, we'll do more sort of networking things. So if you can kind of get into those networks and meet with people, whether it's in person or virtual, yeah, it's always good. I would just support their comment of don't be afraid to reach out to people, no matter who they are or what they're doing. So best of luck and great work.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to build on what Ben said about reaching out, so a couple additions or I don't know, layers I would add to reach out and build your network. Yes, absolutely. That is the key to success. That is the reality of the way social connections and like professional connections work. And when you do it, and you'll learn to do this over time, make it easy for the other person, right? Because they're really busy and they don't have a lot of time. They need to know, how can they help you? How can they give you the best information that you need to achieve your goals? So the more you've thought about what is it that I want? What is it that I need to know? What questions do I have? And how can this other person answer those? Like the more prepared you are with that, the more productive the meeting will be for you, and the more gratifying it'll feel for that person. So that would be my first like add to it. And then the other one too is not everybody is going to be super excited to talk to you, or even if they do talk to you, they might give you weird vibes. And this is very rare, but it does happen. And if you ever feel like they're giving you weird vibes, you're feeling like a burden on their time, you're feeling discouraged, and they give you some message somehow that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, or you should be doing something differently, don't listen to them, because I guarantee you it is so much more about them and their mental space and what they're going through than it is about you. So just brush it off and move on.
Really good advice.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, because that's the key with all feedback is just feedback, and it's up to you to internalize it, to use it or not use it. So I think that's really good.
Yeah, find the people that are going to help and support you. If they're not, move on, because the good folks are out there, I promise. Well, thank you, everyone. Before we end today, I just wanted to thank, 3 groups of people. First, a huge thanks to Ben and Nish for coming today. I know both of you mentored our students in the fall in this program, and you were so just supportive and helpful to them, and you've come in and crit in classes, and I just really appreciate your time, and I know that the students do too. I mean, we're really building and supporting the next incoming generation of designers, and so I think you contributing to that community is just so amazing and appreciated from me and from everyone I know. I also wanted to give a big round of applause to our students. So your class is the first, this term is awful, but it's you're the COVID class. You started and ended the program, in this crazy time in our world. And I know you didn't sign up for it, but finishing the program is really a true testament to you working really hard and juggling a lot. So congrats to you. And then lastly, to those that are watching, I know, there's a lot of different people that are watching for different reasons. But there's this perpetuated myth within the design community, which we kind of touched on today, that, designers do it alone. And that's definitely 100% not true. Great teams build great things together. They design great products together, whatever that product might be. So I want you to, acknowledge those so I just want to acknowledge those who are watching and supporting students. You're really part of the success and that community that we really rely on. So that is it for today, and take care of yourself and take care of each other. And we'll see everyone soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congrats.
Bye.
So for those of you who are watching, we will be back at 4:20 with our final group, again, under the theme of apps and platforms. See you then.
Mic test, testing, 1, 2. No airplane.
No airplane. You sound great. Welcome home, Gabe. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2022 IxD Grad Show. My name is Luke Johnson, and the projects you'll see today are part of the Senior Studio class. Before we get started, I wanted to welcome IxD Program Lead Nicole Chan, who will talk about the IxD program, and welcome our guests.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Chan, as Luke mentioned. I'm the IxD Program Lead. The SMC IxD program is very unique. It's the only interaction design bachelor's program at a community college in the United States. So for those watching on YouTube, the IxD program began its first cohort of students in the fall of 2016 as one of 15 pilot bachelor's programs in the state of California. And this past fall, the SMC IxD program was made official and permanent by the state of California. So we're excited to graduate this 5th cohort on Saturday. So I'd like to start by introducing our special guests today. So these are industry experts who are going to be providing feedback. So I'd like to say hi to Sade and Meg. And Sade, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself briefly, really quick.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Sade Kawaguchi, SMC IxD alum. I was part of cohort 3, and now I am a UX UI designer at Activision.
Thanks. And Meg, can you say hello too?
Hi, y'all. Thanks for including me. I currently work at a change consultancy, but I've dabbled in venture and startups, and I'm a former IDEO learning designer.
Welcome.
Well, thanks everyone for being here. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, as well as for our guests, this year's senior capstone reflects an 8-week sprint. So in the past, we've made it a full, it has been a 16-week class. This year, we decided to try something new. We're always trying new things in the IxD program, and we wanted to try an intense 8-week sprint. And students were allowed to work on projects individually or as a team, and both Gabe and PJ decided to work individually. So kudos to you both. We've also tried to group student work around a theme, and the theme for this session is around apps and platforms. And so when you hear the student presentations today, what's really nice about the way that they will be presenting is they're going to presenting their senior capstone as part of a larger design practice. So you'll get a little intro into who they are, their background, some of the projects they've worked in, and what led to this capstone as well. So that's a good introduction to that. As far as the agenda goes, PJ is going to go first. He'll have 5 minutes to present roughly, and then we'll do 10 minutes of feedback, and then we'll go to Gabe. Nicole, do you want to talk a little bit about how to structure the feedback?
Yeah, so a suggestion for feedback is the I like, I wish, I wonder method. So it's nice to start with what you like, what went well or what is positive. And then you can move into I wish, which is a good place to discuss what could be done differently or improved. And then you can move into I wonder, which you can ask questions, give any ideas. So I'll go ahead and paste that in the chat. So like Luke said, we're going to start with PJ, and Meg, I was hoping you would take the lead on feedback for PJ, and then Sade, if there's time, you can follow up with anything additional.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, should I just start right now? Share my screen? Okay. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Are there any boxes in the way? Anything like that?
You look good.
Perfect. All right, well, hi everyone. My name is PJ Rodriguez, and I'm an artist and product designer from the SF Bay Area, looking to further develop my career in interaction design. As far as personal branding, I've always naturally gravitated towards dragons. Chasing the dragon is an old saying that has a sort of negative association with referring to a drug user's unattainable pursuit of an experience that feels the same as their first time using a drug. Well, I've personalized and reclaimed its meaning as representing the modern day struggle of chasing money or social status and never feeling satisfied. Likewise, I myself never settle, and I'm always chasing the next opportunity to and creative outlet in order to fully express myself and test my potential. Needless to say, I was really into dinosaurs as a kid. I loved the idea of giant mythical creatures that nobody's ever seen before. And without any real photos of them, Every picture I saw was from somebody's imagination, but this imagination was also rooted in data from scientific fields such as paleontology. And from early on, I believe that the very idea of imagination was also deeply rooted in systematic methodology and critical thinking. I've since then let my imagination flourish as I explore different worlds of creative self-expression, ranging from watercolor painting to the traditional Japanese hand-poke tattoos that I've had placed on all around my body. Through experimentation with different mediums from embroidery, sculpting, to the custom trophy pictured on the top right, I discovered the benefit that comes from collaborating with others, which each person can contribute from their own area of expertise as part of a creative collective effort. And with a steady flow of graphic design projects and client commissions, I continue to practice and learn digital design on my own, opting for the process of trial and error over structured learning. However, I long felt guilty about not finishing school, and with a growing desire for a more secure future, I went back to college for an associate's in graphic design after a 4-year hiatus. I enjoyed learning about the principles of design, as well as the industry standard programs used to create quality work. At this point, I was still focusing on the aesthetic side of design. But after a 3-week study abroad trip to Brazil for an art anthropology program, I began to understand the interactive nature and collaborative capabilities that technology could bring to design. This was the turning point for me as far as where I felt my career was heading. Seeing works presented in multiple languages and at once furthered my personal interest in language learning and reminded me of the importance of inclusivity, accessibility, and design's potential to extend across cultural barriers. Shortly after that trip, I took an intro to UX class and focused my efforts on supporting friends learning English, as well as my own passion for cultural exchange. I enjoyed learning about a whole new approach to design, as I no longer had to wait for those aha moments of inspiration. I could rely on a structured methodology to call upon a more deliberate and applied creative process. Shown here are images from a travel and language learning project that I worked on, which focused on bridging the gap between English and Portuguese-speaking communities. Fast forward to today, as a student of interaction design at SMC, I was lucky enough to undergo a 6-week intensive training program from Stanford's D School. Along with 3 other students, we conducted student and faculty interviews, designed prototypes, and presented our insights to key faculty members to encourage interdepartmental collaboration and a community of innovation and entrepreneurship. Another project, Specs, allowed me the opportunity to develop my skills in user journey mapping and affinity diagramming in an effort to ideate a mixed reality wearable tool that could foster improved remote team collaboration through gesture control and overlaid interfaces. For my senior thesis, I find myself on the path of language learning with my project TalkLot. And as the name suggests, the goal is to get the users to talk a lot. As a tool to aid in language learning, TalkLot aims to provide a safe and accessible space to practice extensive speaking, to really build that kinesthetic muscle memory needed to improve pronunciation and spoken fluency. Through my research, I found that a common pain point for people when practicing a language is simply a lack of actually practicing the language. People reported being able to understand, but not to speak their target language. By analyzing more than 10 existing language learning platforms, I found that besides word and short phrase repetition, speech production is often an afterthought, and it's very hard to find practice partners. I began to research articles about language acquisition, and with this data, I ideated a teleprompter feature to track speech in real time using speech recognition software to strengthen speaking skills. Furthermore, users can quickly access translations while immersed in their speaking experience, for example, hovering over a text. TalkLot also monitors pronunciation in real time for each word, so you can track your progress. Next steps for this project that I would like to tackle are to refine the micro interactions and to perform user testing. So I encourage everyone to chase their own creative dragon by staying open to new technological possibilities, different creative directions, and remembering to follow your imagination. I'd like to thank everyone here for listening, and in the spirit of my senior project, let's talk. Thank you.
There we go. Well done, TJ. Congratulations on delivering that. Meg, do you want to, can you take the lead?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for sharing, PJ. This was really nice to get to know you a little bit better and see some of your work and the journey you've taken along the way. Um, one of the things I really liked is this balance you're striking, like even from the beginning of talking about like imagination that's rooted in science. And I think imagination and the power of it, and the fact that we can balance both like imagination with something that maybe is more evidence-based or testable or knowable, right? And to encourage us to think about that way, think about it that way. And also like the emphasis you place on, I can't remember exactly at what moment, but the power of like cross-functional collaboration when multiple things can come together to bear on the problem at the same time. One thing I would encourage you, in the spirit of chasing, seems like chasing the opportunities when you went to this conference and you were able to kind of get new mindsets and shift your thinking about what it is you wanted to do. I would say like continue to chase like new inspiration in yourself and new edges that you can bring in. Like there's nothing that can replace like true cross-functional collaboration with other people who have other experiences. But at IDEO, we've talked about this idea of like a T-shaped person. It's like you have a depth in one thing, but you have many broad experiences and, interests, right? And that all fuels like you can kind of develop multiple moments in your own mind, but you can also bring more to your cross-functional project teams in that way, right? It's cultivating a multiplicity within yourself. In terms of the other thing I thought that was really nice is like looking at the language. Working on learning programs a lot myself. I really like the way that you framed the feedback, that it was like, great, needs work, or I forget, none of them felt like you suck, and none of them were also in like hard red, right? And it all felt like still encouraging, even if people weren't like at their destination. The one thing I do wonder, and I would push, like as you explore things, saying that you want to test things more, is like, when it comes to how might you get at some of the deeper issues here? Like, yes, it's hard to find a speaking partner. What else might happen even if you find one, right? Like you go back to perform, right? Then unless you have somebody who's really disciplined with you and saying like, I will not let you speak any other language. We can't make it easy by slipping back in, right? So there are these surface things that make a ton of sense. And like, I wonder how might you continue to go deeper and deeper and see like, is there anything I'm missing, right? And can I get at that with testing? And lastly, like what I wish for is only to see more. I would love to see how you're applying this mindset, imagination, inspiration, creativity, your artistic side, how that emerges for you when you go into user testing situations, and how might you get creative about the ways in which you set up environments to surface the information you need, right? You have a well of creativity to draw from, and I want you to stay creatively engaged, because sometimes as an artist, you have to start compromising what you might do from an artistic perspective and what really fuels you from art. You have to start to translate that into like, what's going to work and not overload this moment. And that's the tension you're always going to have to hold of like, what do I want to see versus like, what should actually be there? And the thing to bridge that gap is testing. But you can still get really creative. And I'm curious to see, how you apply that in those other contexts.
Great, thank you. Shade.
That was really awesome. And I don't know how I'm going to follow that, but yeah, I mean, as far as the presentation went, I really appreciated you just giving us a glimpse into your background and, what makes you as a designer, and, just seeing, I really liked all of the pictures and little animations that you showed. It felt really engaging and just like, yeah, just really nice to see a little bit more about your background. I feel like I'm coming at it from like maybe like a little bit nitty gritty sort of thing. So like, yeah, like for the like Via Gem, I think I really like all of the concepts, or all the projects that you showed. I really like the concepts. I think some of the like things that just stood out to me, just trying to find things to give you feedback on, are just like in terms of accessibility. And so like when you're choosing like these really bright colors, how they might not read well for people that don't see it very well, or color blindness, and just things to keep in mind there. But yeah, other than that, let's see, I really liked your final concept, like the language teleprompter. I feel like that's definitely an issue that I run into, like trying to learn other languages, is having a speaking partner and trying to find somebody to do that with. I do agree, you know, where might testing lead you to. I think something that I think of when it comes to those sort of apps is like having that motivation to come back to it. Because I do use Duolingo, and I find myself like, I get those like messages and it's like, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. It's like, so like what would encourage me to keep using this technology? But yeah, other than that, I think you did a really great job. And I do wonder about that boot camp or program that you did in Brazil. Like that sounded really awesome.
Thank you for the insight. Thank you.
PJ, we have about 3 minutes to double click on any of the feedback that you got, as well as like if there's just any sort of larger questions that you have, this is the time to ask our guests.
Of course, yeah. I mean, this goes for both Shade and Meg, but so the overall theme of my project was language learning, but more grand idea is just learning in general. And Meg, you did mention, you know, certain colors like red could be associated with negativity, and that might hinder like a learner's motivation to keep going. I'm wondering, are there any other ways, like just general ideas of ways to motivate a user or to encourage learning while using a product? Like how do we facilitate learning as they're using like a digital product, for example?
Mm-hmm. I'll jump in first. There's a couple of things that I'll say is like, content is not learning. So if you really want to promote learning, you need to promote doing. And like content is something that supports one's ability to do, but there's a real big differentiation between like lifelong learning that is actually learning and lifelong learning that is content consumption. And unfortunately, we've all been trained for the most part, not necessarily through this program necessarily, because you're doing all these real world projects, but like we've all come from this background. So notice the tendency when people see that, the learner, you know, the learner user isn't getting something, let's give them more information. I would always check that assumption and say like, is there a solution that involves less? Because when you're working with learning, you're dealing with two resources, attention and cognitive load, right? And so I would look into cognitive load theory and understand a little bit about it, because basically it's like an hourglass. You turn it upside down, that's all you got. If you start asking them to look at a lot of different things on your interface, an interface that's good for one thing, like a certain type of product, like a music service, might not be good at all for learning because you're actually putting too much into it, right? And so you're poking holes in that hourglass and the sand is going off in every direction. So you've got to maintain that cognitive load. A learner's mind can only hold like 3 plus or minus, I think it's 5 plus or minus 2 things. So at the best, you're dealing with 7. At the worst, you're dealing with 3. So like stick to 3. And then the other thing I like to think is like traditional UX design, you know, from the, I think his name is Don Norman. I'm really bad with names, but it's don't make me think. A learning design impetus is make me think about the right things. Learning does involve friction, right? But you don't want it on the interface. You want it on the content. So everything, all that cognitive load, you need to reduce everything even more than you might think. A really great design, like I said, might look wonderful, but it's not good for a learning environment. And the last thing I'll say is learning is driven by emotion. We focus a lot on cognitive, but like we actually don't make decisions without the emotional centers of our brain. And most of the frictions and barriers to learning have to do with emotion. You have to accept that you know less. You have to be willing to make mistakes. So you need to create an environment that attunes to those emotional needs. Don't just focus on the content. For me as a learning designer, content is always last.
Thank you. I love that. My line of thinking was very similar to just keeping it as simple as possible. The research showed me that learning language, there's so many different methods. So how could you actually just learn? You learn by doing. And so the problem that I found is people aren't doing. And so like Shade, when you mentioned Duolingo, that's another one of those apps that tries to like guilt trip you, like, oh, come back to our app and use us, please. And then there's so many different features in the actual interface that it often gets, you know, quite overloading for your brain. So I definitely really appreciate you mentioning that keeping things simple, and I'll take that into my next steps. Thank you.
Nice work, PJ. Gabe, we'll turn it over to you. And Shade, if you don't mind taking the lead to start the feedback, then Meg will fill in afterwards.
That's good.
All right, let me share my screen. All right. All right, you guys see that?
Looks good, Gabe.
All right. Hello, I'm Gabe Silverstein, product designer with an ever-evolving toolbox. I strive to create designs that are helpful, delightful, and playful. It's been my lifelong mission to expand my toolbox to help others with joy. Let's jump into it. A Santa Monica native, I was always fascinated by the world of design, developing my first logo at age 8. I loved creating things too, from original board games to cardboard contraptions, long before I knew about Photoshop. At age 13, I received a MacBook and began taking Photoshop lessons. My world was forever changed. With Photoshop, I discovered a new ability to create using this new medium. My logo evolved, and most recently with a bit of a hairdo. My design skills continued to improve with each project and challenge. I loved sharing my work and working with others. It felt great to make things that help people with an element of delight and play. In high school, I was awarded my first logo commission for a friend's on-campus coffee shop. I was soon designing logos, flyers, and posters for campus clubs and events. Working with peers, professors, and professionals provided me with real-world experience, a sense of belonging, and much encouragement to proceed along this journey. Similar to the delight I experienced upon opening my first Mac, it gave me delight to see my designs being enjoyed by my friends and the community. The logo I made for my school paper, The Boiling Point, is still being used today in print, online, and was even put on a cookie, a sweet slam dunk feeling that inspired me to continue delighting others. After high school, I enrolled at SMC but wasn't sure my long-term plans. Soon, I discovered the IxD program and took my first UX class. Initially hesitant, I quickly realized UX was a perfect fit. It combined my love of design with my passions of helping others, solving problems, and adding delight into people's lives. I channeled these passions with my first IxD project, MeKit, helping airline passengers feel safe by providing them with personalized, delightful essentials kits based on silver archetypes. As self-appointed role of project manager, I interjected humor and wit, which helped loosen up the team, enhancing creativity. Next was Focus Bud, a device for those with ADHD to improve their focus. It utilizes the natural delight of gamification to improve study habits and lessen distractions by rewarding study sessions. It delights users with points and trophies and an overall fun feel, making study time more playful and productive. My passions of helping people with play were further actualized in another team project called Monster Mail, a fun and rewarding way to delete unwanted emails via a gamified experience. Users delete emails, feed the trash, complete quests, and collect rewards, making email fun and playful. Lastly, my passion for cars, along with helping people, came together in my senior year. Meet Kara, an electric vehicle research assistant using augmented reality. It helps this new wave of EV shoppers make a more informed decision that's based on their lifestyle as well as their needs. In my research, I found users can be frustrated and confused when researching and shopping for EVs. It's especially difficult for buyers interested in EVs, unfamiliar with this evolving market. A user persona, service blueprint, and interviews all helped identify my user needs and solve for them. Kara helps solve this need by utilizing quizzes to help learn about your particular needs. Kara then recommends personalized cars that best fit your lifestyle and budget. Users can compare car specs, explore and learn about EV tech, and view cars in AR to help visualize their selection. Working on Kara allowed me to combine my passion for automobiles and for helping others, and finding an EV that best fits them. MeKit, Focus Bud, Monster Mail, and Kara all improve the lives of others with a sense of delight and play. These projects embody the type of work I wish to create for my professional future endeavors. When I unwrapped my first MacBook, I was filled with joy with a sense of potential. Little did I know how this will provide me with the opportunity to bring joy to others as well. I strive to continue making designs that are helpful, delightful, as well as playful. If you share these similar notions, values, and passion, please reach out. Let's work together. You can explore more and contact me on my website. Thank you very much.
All right, Gabe, really well done. And I do want to compliment you on your delivery. So the original ask was a Pechakucha with time slides, and people have leeway as far as using that format, and you really designed to that. So just kudos to you for that. Shade, we'll start with you for feedback.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was really great. So kudos to you as well. Yeah, Pechakucha can be tough, so I understand the struggle there. Let's see where to start. Well, again, I really appreciate seeing your journey as a designer, and you know, seeing just like the pictures of you as a kid, and just how much you love like digital design, and you know, that's just been a part of your journey since you're young. And so I feel like that really helped me, like, I don't know, relate in some sense. But yeah, so what else did I write? I guess I really loved just the clean aesthetic, the really clean presentation. I think your project concepts seem really like super cool. I am curious about like focus bud. It just seems like gamifying and ADHD like somehow should contradict in a way, but yeah, I guess I am curious about like what research you had that led you to that concept.
Yeah, thanks for your feedback. That was a fun project. It was a team project, so we all coming up with ideas. So one member of my group, Sienna, she wanted to do something about productivity, and she mentioned ADHD. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized it was a very interesting field to tackle, because ADHD is a very difficult thing to manage. And so basically, the core research that we found was that basically with the both the pleasure and the focus that a lot of people who have ADHD who also play video games, they have these concept of earning points, having those focus sessions of a 15-minute match in like a video game, for example, and then they're rewarded with points and trophies at the end, and that creates this dopamine surge to continue working towards those goals. So we channel that research that's can be often referred to as like a negative thing into a positive thing by rewarding those study sessions into rewards, and then they could also customize their little focus button on their desk, and that will be a reward for their focus sessions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, did you guys do any sort of user research to validate this theory?
Yeah, I interviewed some people with ADHD, and they found that it would be something that would be very useful in their focus sessions. Obviously, it's our project also has concepts that are also kind of difficult to prototype in regards to, like we prototyped a concept that it would theoretically track your what applications you're running on your computer, for example, and then it would say like, oh, did you supposed to focus on Safari on like Canvas for a school project, for example, and then you would input that into the system and see what distracts you. But we tested a basic version, and we received very positive feedback about the concept.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a really interesting concept, but yeah, I almost would definitely, test it some more or get a prototype going for that one, because yeah, it seems like that would almost make your ADHD worse in my mind, but yeah, I would just be interested to find that out. Yeah, I mean, I do like that you have a focus. It seems like gaming or gamification is very much your interest. which is really cool. I really liked the final project that you presented. I think like it looked amazing and everything. The only thing I wish was on the research screen. I think it had like several bits of like user flows and things, but it was a bit small. So other than knowing that you did it, I don't really know what the research came from it, but I do appreciate that you showed that slide. But yeah, I don't know if you could tell me a little more about the AR car concept. I might have missed a little bit.
Yeah, so basically, this project was over the course of the semester, and basically I was I knew I wanted to do something with my passion for automobiles, and I wanted to apply everything I learned in user experience and the IxD program to prototype something that would help people purchase a car. And basically, and interviewed several people, and throughout my interviews, it continued to shape the project throughout my interviews and throughout the prototypes and my user testing. It shaped the project. It basically went from a project to just research cars in general, to implementing augmented reality, to just focusing on electric vehicles with augmented reality as a bonus, as a way to help visualize your vehicle. Because in my user testing, people were asking, is augmented reality really a necessary component, or is that the main crux of my project? And the more I researched, the more I realized that in addition, it works in tandem with the core aspect of researching an EV that best fits them, because it allows you to visualize the car in your physical space, and you can see how it can look like in your driveway. And it also gives you a visual of the trunk of the car to see like how large is it? Can I fit my surfboards or my suitcase in there, depending on your lifestyle? And that provides you a visual and also a fun, delightful way of visualizing that car in your lifestyle. So it adds as a bonus. And basically I focused on EVs because I realized focusing on all cars it will be way too many models out there. So I had a suggestion to focus on EVs, which I thought was quite good, because I initially used an EV for my cover poster, and then I realized, wait a minute, why not just focus on EVs? Because there's a lot less EVs, but more importantly, there's an extremely demanding need for consolidated and a helpful way to research about EVs. With the increase of electric vehicles on the market and that they're rapidly evolving and growing, people are much more likely to be in the market for EVs, and they need an easy, simple way to research an EV and find something that best fits them over the many, many models. Does that answer your question?
I think so, yeah. Thank you for providing that extra context. I think it didn't even register. It's like, yeah, why AR? But I think that does make some sense there. And the last thing I'll say, because I don't want to take up too much time, is, I really like the way that you just came back at the very end, to your journey and what your purpose is as a designer. So I thought that was really great. But well done. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Meg. All right.
Great, thank you. Yeah, lovely. Gabe, again, thank you for sharing your work and a little bit about yourself with us. One of the things that I liked, and I'm gonna synthesize a little bit, you can tell me if it's way off, but I remember you're telling the story about the initial computer, and you were like, yeah, I made this logo, and I would also even do these cardboard creations. And I would say what I hear in there, and also when you're I was self-appointed project manager, it seems like you have a bias for action and to act and to do, right? And I think that's really good. And I like that. And it's something you should keep a focus on maintaining. It's a very important skill in a world where problems are getting increasingly complex, and it's easy to sit around and talk about it for a long time, right? So this bias for action is something that's very important in all the work I do, and in a lot of the work of the startups and other companies I advise and consult. Picking up on the thread of the EV, being an EV owner and actually having advised a VC in a VC capacity, a site that was designed to do just this, I wish that I had seen a little bit more differentiation for what the core needs for EV are over looking for other cars. And it's one of those things is about battery. and understanding battery health and understanding like, what does this mean about my lifestyle, about like, not just what can I fit in this car, but like, where can I go, for how long will there be, like, so there's more battery awareness that I think would have come up to the forefront in a very EV specific kind of application. And so like, think about it, like, yes, it's convenient. There's less EVs and there's high demand, but then you have to go a little bit further. So I think that was strategic. Then go a little bit further and say like, what is really unique about EV that you could use AR for any other car, right? It's not, that doesn't necessarily have to be unique to EV. So pick the features and the things. And if AR does have a unique application there, then make sure that is what's highlighted. The other thing I'll just say is I love the emphasis on delight. One of the things that really came up that sounded really nice is how like your demeanor and your, I guess, yeah, the way you're coming across, you said like enhance the creative collaboration of the team. And I think that's something you can't, like, I'm very much focused on both the emotional, cognitive needs of my team members and also anyone that I serve through a design. And so I love how you had that focus on the things that you're interested in can not only help the person you're designing for or the people you're designing for, but the people you're designing alongside. And that can get really lost in the mix. We've got work to do and we're in meetings and one meeting after the next. But the more we attune to what is needed emotionally for creativity to happen, you're spot on. A couple of things I wonder, coming from the fun and play side, is that there's a wide span of emotions that can be tapped into for any given moment. And I think delight has a lot underneath it, right? I'm going to talk about that in a second. But like fun and play might be threatening in certain situations, right? Because you might not feel like you can play, or you might not want to play because it doesn't feel like you're being taken seriously. So I would just say, keep that on your radar. And so it's I wonder when you're going to encounter moments where you want to, because you're putting your brand on this, right? And so it's either you need to find organizations where it is going to be the main thing almost all the time for the products you're creating, or you're going to have to cultivate a sensitivity about when to dial it down, even though it's core to what you believe in. The other thing, going back to delight, is like, I wonder how you can test for delight. A user is very rarely going to come to you and say, I feel so delighted about this. So ask yourself, what does it look like? What do they think, feel, say, do when they are delighted? Because it might not always be so obvious coming across in research. The other thing I wonder about that I'd be curious to poke into are the different ways that we can play. You can play from a rule-based game, points, et cetera, et cetera. There's also, I forget the name of the Japanese designer that did these playgrounds for kids, but they were just like these shapes and these concrete structures. And it was designed for like emergent self-directed play. So you can think about like, what are the rules and the points and the badges and this and that, and like have this gamification lens on that. Or you can say like, kind of, how do I structure this space such that play becomes more likely and that play becomes whatever they want it to be, right? So there's probably more modes of play as you get into it, but there might be times you want to shift. I wonder, oh, this is a rule-based moment I want to be amplifying in a gamification and like understand the role, versus I just want them to play and I want them to allow it to be whatever it is, right? So that's something I'd be curious about and I'd look into, and maybe it'll inspire yourself with some design thinking there.
Very interesting. Thank you so much.
So Gabe, you got some really great feedback from both our guests. Is there anything that you want to double click on for the time that we have in terms of like follow-up questions or just general questions?
Yeah, I think quickly back to Meg regarding my Kara project. I'm thinking, kind of digging deeper into the concept that you're talking about recognizing the battery health, because I think it's such an interesting concept. Quickly, at a family friend, and they bought a Nissan Leaf, and then they found out the battery, like the battery that I just had a warranty. That's the thing people don't really know about. So you think like, besides for that, what is the range of because I was trying to find a fine line between simplicity and informing them about EVs.
Yeah, I think that's the tension you have to hold, right? I mean, you don't want to like create like, here's the full book theory on like how electric car batteries work and how you can diagnose the health and all this kind of stuff. But I think you are in a moment, right, where we are, if you are designing this right now, imagine you're on the cusp, a knowledge cusp, right? People don't think like about a normal car battery, like I'll just replace my battery. Like it's $2,000, no big deal. But like for an EV, it's a totally different story, right? And so you have this lack of knowledge. And so I think you'd want to do some research to understand like, what information do they need when? Like, is there different information at the top level of like, it could be like information journey or information architecture. It really depends if you're on a single, whatever, but it's like in the initial phase where they're just kind of looking at 20, what's the information they need about the battery? If they come and click in and now they're evaluating between two, is there some sort of different thing that might come up? So maybe you look at the journey and like when to serve some of that. And then I would focus on like, how do we simplify the language and make sure it doesn't get too technical? Because really, like, what do people want their car to do? Like focus on whatever the goal of the car is. Like we did a project with Ford and the design principle ended up being like the journey matters more than the charge. Like we wanted people to think about the phone as more like a phone, like you plug it in when you need to at the end of the day, right? Because we didn't want all the emphasis on the battery for that audience. But what is the car for? What is it designed to get them doing? Why are they choosing EV? And I think some of those side questions will help you think about what information, when, where, and how much, how deep, how specific.
Thank you so much, Meg, for your feedback. My microphone's muted. Thank you.
Very cool. Well, so these are some like pretty for both, PJ and Gabe, like these are some really great questions. It's an 8-week project. It's a launching point as you start to transition, from academia into the professional world. And these are great things that you can carry with you if you choose to do so. But speaking of which, we have, I wanted to before we wrap things up, I did want to ask both Shade and Meg if they had any advice for both PJ and Gabe and those who are out there as students start to transition from just, this is graduation, it's commencement, it's advice time. So if there's any advice you could give some designers as they start to make this transition, either one of you can start, but that would be great.
Go for it, Shade.
Yeah, I guess speaking just from my experience, coming from the program, trying to find a job into the real world. Yeah, I guess, practice your stories, narrow, hone in on, and really, I do admire that you both have just like a focus that you seem to be really passionate about. So I would just, go for it. And, fine tune your resume and your portfolio to those things. And I think one thing or a couple things that like I learned, actually working is, how to do dev handoff and more about accessibility. And so I think doing your own research on those subjects, I think would definitely put you a little ahead of the curve a bit.
All right, building there. Or Gabe, sorry, you want to respond?
No, I just think, thank you.
Couple of things to add to the list. One thing I'll say is that when you're thinking about the story that you're going to tell, to employers or interviews or whatever, is that like tools and skills are rapidly changing, right? So I would try and find a way to elevate up from whatever it was. What is it that it took? Like what adaptable skill, what adaptive expertise can you show? And like your ability to pick up new things. So it's like that becomes like the high level, and these other things are examples of that, because everything is just going to be rapidly changing. Like it's not about any specific skill or tool. So I wouldn't like hitch my whole like portfolio story on something like a tool. The other thing I tell everyone is everywhere you go, professionally or not, talk about the projects you're working on. Someone's like, hey, Gabe, what's going on? How you doing? You're like, oh, I'm super interested because I'm trying to solve this problem. You will be surprised at the people who are like, you know what? I know somebody who's working on that and they're actually looking for somebody to do X, Y, Z. I've gotten a handful of jobs that way, or a handful of like connections that help me actually push the project forward to a place that it does become like more professional. And the last thing, don't forget this moment of like, school right now will push the synthesis on you to say like, what have I done? But like, it's really bad when you try to do that, like 4 years, you maybe get a job for 2 years, 3 years. And then you're like, oh man, I got to do my portfolio again. So like, it's good hygiene to like take time to reflect, and like, it's to congratulate yourself and like, see what you actually accomplished. I guarantee you in any given span of time, you've done more than you think you did if you don't take time to do it. So give yourself that pat on the back, but like have that hygiene so you don't get behind it, because as you evaluate new jobs, like you're looking back at like, look at this story. This is where I came from, like me and my first Mac and my Photoshop, and here I am now. As you look forward, say, what is the story I want to be able to tell after the next 2 years? So what project does that look like? What team, what organization? So think about like, I've gotten here. What do I imagine the next chapter to be? It doesn't have to stay that way, but just have a sense, right? Because otherwise you're gonna be like, oh, I think this job, I think that. What story do you want to be able to tell? Because you're gonna have a variety of shifts over time in this type of career market that we're in, and micro retirements and shifts and new adaptations and all this kind of stuff. And you're gonna be like, how does this story stitch together? It's gonna stitch together if you're always considering, what is the story I want to be able to tell at the end of this? It'll also help you prioritize where you put your focus on a project, on a job, etc.
Very insightful. Thank you.
Sorry, just to piggyback off of that. Yeah, agreed with everything that she said. Also, I feel like the program did a really great job in setting you guys up with the tools, you know, like how to research and how to document things. And so document everything, document. And I feel like the projects that you've been working on do really help you build that narrative, build out a fully flushed story of that project. And so try to carry those tools when you go into like your jobs, and try to keep those in mind when you're building like a case study.
Thank you.
Thank you both. An amen came out of my mouth as you both were talking unexpectedly. So thank you for that. Nicole, do you want to wrap things up for us?
Sure. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, you both just totally validated everything we say and never feel like it's sinking in. So thanks for that. Yeah, so before we end today, I just want to thank, kind of 3 groups of people. First, I just want to thank Meg and Sade for coming today. Both of you, I know, have given a lot of your time and energy to the students in this program, and I've heard from the students in this program how much they appreciate all that you have done to support them. I know you both mentored in the fall, and from what the feedback I keep getting and kind of my mentor research program that I've been doing is how much people like you are what they talk about when they come back, and that's what they really appreciate is getting that outside, really rigorous, thoughtful feedback. So thank you again for taking time today to be with us. I also want to give a big, huge round of applause to PJ and Gabe and to all of your cohort. Your group is the first COVID class of folks that came in and left during this crazy time in our worlds and lives. And I know it's been challenging for you to juggle and balance everything that you have. And so congratulations on finishing and wrapping this up this spring. And also to the people that are watching, everyone that's been supporting this wonderful group of people going through this degree and program. And Luke and I talk quite a bit about how you really cannot do it alone, and designers don't do it alone either. You really do need a team of great people, in life in general, and also in your work as a designer. So I want to just acknowledge the people that are watching and supporting the students today as well, and this journey that they've been on. So you are all part of their success. So that is it for today. Take care of yourself and everyone else, and celebrate.
Great job, everyone. Thanks so much.
Congratulations, y'all. Celebrate.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.